Players, as always, are invited to engage. Also, beyond that, we are establishing a multi-stakeholder task force, call it like a state of the game committee, inviting player voices and other stakeholders to that table to ensure that our officiated platform.
Tough rake across the face. I mean, the athleticism at year 14 is still just incredible. I mean, she picks her dribble up on the right side, ends up through two defenders on the left side.
The basketball world was braced for chaos, but nobody expected the situation to spiral out of control this fast, threatening to derail the most lucrative season in women's professional sports history. Just as television ratings were reaching heights never seen before, a single defensive star found herself at the very center of a national media storm, so fierce it forced league executives to convene emergency meetings behind closed doors. The tension on the hardwood had been rising for months, but when two back-to-back hits to the face occurred in a high-stakes postseason matchup, the delicate line between aggressive physical basketball and unsportsmanlike conduct was completely wiped out. Fans were screaming from the stands, coaches were storming onto the court, and social media exploded with clips viewed tens of millions of times within hours. Standing in the middle of this unprecedented storm was Wnba Commissioner Cathy Engelbert, facing an agonizing choice that could forever alter the future of the league. The demand from national commentators and furious fans was loud, clear, and uncompromising. Immediate disciplinary action had to be taken before someone got seriously injured on live television. But to understand how an elite defender went from a fan favorite to facing rumors of an outright league ban, you have to look at the exact sequence of events that pushed the entire sport past its breaking point. To truly grasp how this situation reached a fever pitch, you have to look at the unique trajectory of Dijonai Carrington's career and the high-octane play style that defined her time on the court. Known across the league as an relentless perimeter defender, Carrington built her reputation on full-court pressure, physical ball denials, and an unyielding competitive drive that made life miserable for opposing guards. For years, this style of play was praised by coaches and traditional basketball analysts as the gold standard of perimeter defense, in a league that has historically taken immense pride in its physical, battle-tested brand of basketball. The Connecticut Sun thrived on this defensive identity, building a culture around suffocating opponents, forcing turnovers, and setting a physical tone from the opening tip. However, as the league began experiencing a massive influx of new viewers and unprecedented media spotlight during the 2024 season, the boundary between legendary defensive toughness and dangerous over-aggression became the most fiercely debated topic in sports broadcasting. The spark that set this entire wildfire in motion occurred during a high-stakes playoff game that was supposed to showcase the absolute best of modern women's basketball. Millions of eyes were glued to screens across the country as the Connecticut Sun took on the Indiana Fever, a matchup highlighted by the postseason debut of rookie sensation Caitlin Clark. Just minutes into the opening quarter, Carrington picked up Clark near the perimeter, extending her arms in a tight defensive stance to disrupt a potential pass. In a fraction of a second, Carrington's hand swept across Clark's face, making direct and forceful contact with her right eye. Clark immediately winced, grabbing her face in visible discomfort as she dropped toward the hardwood, her eyes swelling rapidly and turning visibly dark as the game progressed. On the floor, the official's whistle remained silent, regarding a flagrant call, treating the collision as a routine basketball play. But off the court, the internet erupted into an absolute frenzy that instantly consumed every major sports network in the country. Within minutes of the final buzzer, slow-motion clips of the eye contact were being dissected frame by frame across every social media platform, generating tens of millions of impressions. Fans, analysts, and sports commentators immediately split into two opposing camps. launching a furious debate that dominated sports talk radio for days. One side argued that the replay clearly showed a deliberate, unnatural reaching movement aimed directly at the rookie superstar's face, pointing out that Clark was forced to play the rest of the high-stakes game with compromised vision. The opposing side, including former players and Carrington's teammates, strongly maintained that it was nothing more than an unfortunate, accidental collision resulting from standard high-intensity perimeter contesting. When reporters pressed Carrington in post-game interviews about the incident, her candid, unapologetic responses only added fuel to the raging fire. Instead of diffusing the situation, the public back and forth created a hostile environment where every single move Carrington made on the court was now under an intense national spotlight. Rather than retreating from her aggressive play style in the wake of the eye poke controversy, Carrington doubled down on her trademark intensity during the following matchups, creating a tension-filled atmosphere every time she stepped onto the floor. Opposing teams started entering games with a visible chip on their shoulders, ready to physicalize every single interaction with Carrington to protect their own players. During a heated contest against the New York Liberty, Carrington engaged in multiple tight physical battles with superstar guard Sabrina Ionescu, resulting in hard fouls, tangled limbs, and verbal exchanges that required officials to step in before things escalated further. Game after game, highlight reels were no longer just focused on steals or transition baskets. They were highlighted by contentious physical stops, face-level contests, and heavy body contact near the paint. Video compilations of Carrington's defensive highlights began going viral on YouTube and TikTok, framed by critics as evidence of a systemic problem, while loyal supporters insisted she was simply being singled out because of the modern media circus surrounding the league. The absolute boiling point occurred during a high-profile showdown that was broadcast to a massive national television audience. In a game where emotions were running dangerously high from the very first possession, chaos finally broke loose late in the second half. On a fast break drive toward the basket, Carrington rose up to contest a layup, coming down with a heavy, downward forearm stroke that struck an offensive player across the face and head area. The bench exploded in protest, demanding an immediate review. But before the official review process could even settle the arena, another explosive moment happened just 2 possessions later. As an opposing perimeter player attempted to elevate for a jump shot, Carrington's contest once again made heavy, direct contact with the player's nose and jaw area, sending the shooter crashing to the floor, holding her head in pain. The arena erupted into chaotic boos. Both head coaches stormed toward the mid-court scorers' table screaming at the referee crew, and players from both teams had to be restrained by staff as the atmosphere devolved into pure bedlam. The officiating crew spent several minutes huddled around the tiny sideline monitor, reviewing the footage from multiple broadcast angles, while the arena held its breath. When the head referee finally stepped to the center of the court to announce flagrant foul penalties, the damage to the league's public image was already done. Within minutes of the game concluding, sports websites and news outlets were plastering headlines across the internet declaring that the situation had become completely unmanageable. Furious fans launched online petitions demanding that the commissioner step in and issue an indefinite suspension, while sports talk hosts openly questioned whether the league was doing enough to protect its top athletic talents from dangerous physical altercations. The narrative had officially transformed from a single controversial play into a full-blown crisis for the league's executive leadership. Behind the closed doors of Wnba headquarters on Fifth Avenue in New York, Commissioner Cathy Engelbert faced what was arguably the most complex administrative nightmare of her tenure. On one side of the coin, Engelbert was stewarding the league through a historic golden age, securing multi-billion-dollar media rights deals, filling arenas to capacity, and attracting major corporate sponsors who wanted to be associated with a clean, world-class athletic product. On the other side, she was facing mounting corporate pressure regarding the physical safety of the league's most valuable assets on the court. Broadcast partners, team owners, and corporate sponsors were reportedly raising serious concerns about the optics of repeated, unpenalized hits to the face on live television, fearing that an unaddressed culture of violence could tarnish the brand image during its biggest growth period in history. Rumors began circulating throughout executive circles that the disciplinary committee was considering taking drastic, unprecedented steps to regain control of game management. The concept of issuing an outright league ban or an extended multi-game suspension to a player for on-court physical play is an administrative minefield under professional sports law. Under the collective bargaining agreement between the league and the players' union, any severe disciplinary action like a multi-game suspension or league ban requires clear legal justification, extensive review of flagrant foul point accruals, and proof of conduct detrimental to the integrity of the sport. However, the Commissioner's Office possesses broad discretionary power under league bylaws to enforce suspensions if a pattern of behavior is deemed reckless or dangerous to participant safety. Legal experts and sports commentators began debating whether Engelbert could utilize cumulative flagrant point totals, previous fine history, and public optics to hand down a mandatory multi-game suspension that would effectively remove Carrington from the court for the remainder of the postseason, sending a clear message to every team in the league. Inside the locker rooms across the Wnba, the potential for commissioner intervention created a deep, uncomfortable ideological rift among the players themselves. Veteran athletes who had spent decades playing in the league stepped up on national podcasts and post-game media sessions to fiercely defend Carrington, warning that a league-mandated suspension for physical basketball would set a terrifying precedent. They argued that basketball is fundamentally an intense, full-contact sport, and that demonizing a top defensive player simply because modern casual fans didn't like physical play would erode the competitive soul of the women's game. On the opposite side of the debate, several active players privately expressed deep frustration, admitting that off-ball hits, face contact, and high-risk defensive contests were crossing the line into unsafe territory that threatened their health and livelihoods. The Women's National Basketball Players Association was reportedly prepared to launch an immediate, aggressive legal appeal if any emergency suspension was handed down without adhering strictly to the formal disciplinary point system outlined in the collective bargaining agreement. As the national media firestorm raged on, Carrington found herself operating under a level of psychological pressure that very few professional athletes ever experience. Every single defensive contest, rebound attempt, and physical box-out she executed was now analyzed by television producers with zoom lenses, ready to replay any contact in super slow motion for millions of waiting viewers. Referees were clearly blowing the whistle tighter during Connecticut Sun games, calling quick fouls on perimeter contact that would normally be allowed to play out, which visibly disrupted the team's overall defensive rhythm and intensity. Despite the overwhelming media pressure and hostile road crowds taunting her from the stands, Carrington refused to publicly alter her aggressive mindset, maintaining in interviews that she plays the game with maximum passion, heart, and toughness, and that she would never allow outside narrative noise to change who she is as a competitor. This intense controversy ultimately forced the entire sport to confront a massive identity crisis at the worst possible time. The Wnba was caught in a delicate transition period, evolving from a niche, purist basketball product into a massive, multi-billion-dollar global entertainment enterprise. In the modern era of professional sports entertainment, superstar protection is an absolute financial necessity. When marquee names like Caitlin Clark or Sabrina Ionescu are forced to sit out games due to injuries sustained from non-standard contact, leagues lose millions of dollars in television viewership ticket sales, and merchandise revenue. Major sports leagues like the NBA and NFL went through this exact same evolution decades ago, gradually shifting their rules and officiating guidelines to heavily penalize hard fouls, head contact, and hits to protected star players, to protect their multi-million-dollar investments. The Wnba was now undergoing that exact same structural evolution live on national television, with Carrington standing directly at the focal point of the transformation. As the season pushed toward its dramatic conclusion, the league office issued updated officiating directives instructing referee crews to apply zero-tolerance policies for any hand or arm contact above the shoulders of an offensive player. While an explicit, permanent ban on Carrington was ultimately constrained by the union's collective bargaining protections, the threat of immediate ejections, hard multi-game suspensions, and mandatory flagrant foul reviews effectively changed how games were called across the entire league. Referees began assessing flagrant 1 and flagrant 2 penalties with far higher frequency for any contact near the head area, forcing defenders across every team to adjust their contests or face immediate removal from the floor. The swift administrative reaction proved that while a single player might not be erased from the league overnight, the overwhelming pressure from fans, sponsors, and broadcast partners had successfully forced the commissioner's hand into enforcing a brand new era of player safety guidelines. The ripple effects of this entire saga will be felt across women's professional basketball for generations to come. The incident exposed the intense growing pains of a league rapidly expanding into the global entertainment spotlight, where every hard foul, off-court statement, and administrative decision carries massive commercial consequences. Dijonai Carrington's controversial season will forever be remembered as the definitive tipping point that forced the Wnba to re-evaluate where hard-nosed defensive grit ends and player safety protection begins. Whether you view her as a relentless defensive warrior who was unfairly villainized by an online media circus, or an overly dangerous player whose play style required immediate commissioner intervention, one thing is beyond dispute: the game will never be officiated the same way again. As the Wnba prepares for its next era of record-breaking expansion, huge television deals, and international fan growth, the tension between physical intensity and superstar protection remains an ongoing battle line. Commissioner Cathy Engelbert and the league's Board of Governors have made it crystal clear that protecting athlete health and maintaining a clean, highly marketable broadcast product is the absolute top priority moving forward. Fans will undoubtedly continue to debate every controversial whistle, every flagrant review, and every disciplinary action taken by the league office. But as the floor boundaries tighten and officiating standards evolve to protect the sport's biggest draws, the message sent down from the highest executive levels is unshakable. The product on the floor must evolve, and no single player, regardless of their competitive fire, is bigger than the future of the league. The basketball world was braced for chaos, but nobody expected the situation to spiral out of control this fast, threatening to derail the most lucrative season in women's professional sports history. Just as television ratings were reaching heights never seen before, a single defensive star found herself at the very center of a national media storm, so fierce it forced league executives to convene emergency meetings behind closed doors. The tension on the hardwood had been rising for months, but when 2 back-to-back hits to the face occurred in a high-stakes postseason matchup, the delicate line between aggressive physical basketball and unsportsmanlike conduct was completely wiped out. Fans were screaming from the stands, coaches were storming onto the court, and social media exploded with clips viewed tens of millions of times within hours. Standing in the middle of this unprecedented storm was Wnba Commissioner Cathy Engelbert, facing an agonizing choice that could forever alter the future of the league. The demand from national commentators and furious fans was loud, clear, and uncompromising. Immediate disciplinary action had to be taken before someone got seriously injured on live television. But to understand how an elite defender went from a fan favorite to facing rumors of an outright league ban, you have to look at the exact sequence of events that pushed the entire sport past its breaking point. To truly grasp how this situation reached a fever pitch, you have to look at the unique trajectory